Hi, it's Alison from the Law School Toolbox. Today we're diving into essential tips for 3Ls who are gearing up for the bar exam.
Now, how do you choose the right bar prep course? We just talked about, keeping in mind that there are different courses with different offerings, but what should you even consider when you're looking at a bar prep course?
I think with this, people have to go back to the old adage of, you have to know yourself. So for me, I went kind of a non-traditional route. Maybe I have a non-traditional brain, but I just knew when I was looking at these big courses, I knew I wasn't going to be happy sitting through a bunch of lectures. That's not the most efficient way for me to learn. I'm really good at picking up an outline, reading it, understanding it, maybe making my own materials and using that. For me, I just knew that wasn't going to work for me. But I think that's a hard call because a lot of people are pushing sort of, oh, just, do the course that every law professor did and then, you'll be fine. And the reality is that may or may not work.
Yeah, I think especially with the prevalence of all these learning differences we have, just outside the fact that some of us process information differently, I think there's a larger and larger percent of the law school community that is aware of kind of learning differences or attention deficit issues or anxiety or a lot of things that can really affect how you're able to study and process information and sit for long periods of time. And you hopefully know that about yourself. And then you should look at these bar programs and say, if my bar program expects me to listen to lectures for 4 hours a day, one, can I listen to lectures for 4 hours a day? And listening to them on 2.5 speed, I hear this stuff all the time. It's like, you're not retaining anything. It's 2.5
No.
speed. So you have to say, is that going to be a way I'm going to retain information? What are the other things outside of those lectures that these bar prep companies are offering? And do I learn that way? And I think that those can be really hard, vulnerable answers or questions to have to answer for yourself. They're incredibly important. And remember, no one knows unless you come on our podcast and talk about it, how you studied for the bar. They just know that you passed.
True.
This is not something everybody sits around and discusses at happy hour at the firm after you've gotten a job.
No, everyone's just like, oh, I passed, thank goodness. The reality is there's a lot of information you need for the exam, but all of that information can basically be encapsulated into a few hundred pages because Smart Bar Prep or someone like them will sell it to you.
Yeah.
So, I think you have to kind of keep some perspective here of, if that's really the information I need, what is the most efficient way of getting that into my head and then applying it to the actual task that I have to do? Because what I see a lot of people doing is they sign up for a big bar prep company's course, they get stuck watching tons of videos, they start falling behind, and then they don't really feel comfortable doing the practice because they don't feel like they know the law. So then they start focusing on the law and then they don't do the practice. And then they get to the end and they go into the exam with all this kind of jumbled up stuff in their head that they haven't really fully internalized or memorized, and then just kind of bomb the exam. And I hate to see that happen.
Yeah. You also need to really understand what some of the tools that the bar providers are giving you. Do you want to have a very structured study schedule, or do you want one that's adaptive and is going to change based on what you get done? You should also look at how many hours a week those study schedules assume that you're studying, because some of them can be incredibly intense and really impractical to even keep up with when it all comes down to it.
Right. Particularly if you're getting any type of time accommodations.
Yeah. So,
if they've already got you studying 10 hours a day for 6 or 7 days a week, you can't study 15 hours a day. No one can.
And also, who's really that productive 10 hours a day, 6 to 7 days a week?
No one.
Nobody.
You've got basically 3, 4, maybe 5 hours of really intense work that any person can do focused in a day. That's just the reality of how brains work.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we wish it was different, but it's not.
Yeah. We do.
Yeah.
But there are other things you can do. It's not like you can't study and, do something that's a little bit less mentally taxing. But for your really focused study time, you cannot do massive quantities in one day because your brain isn't going to let you.
We also encourage you to look at the MBE question bank programs such as UWorld and Adaptabar. I do think that they are still the best way to prepare for the MBE. And if you're in California, for now, we do think that
The quasi
Oh my gosh.
MBE.
We do think that you should still prepare for the multiple choice California exam using the same tools. Um, and really, another thing that I think is not often discussed enough is what is your budget? And, what are some of these bar prep costs really going to cost you long term? So, nobody really likes to talk about money except us. We like to talk about money on this podcast. But let's take an example. If your bar prep program costs $5,000 and you put that on a credit card with FBA APR, that can hang out there for a very long time and not be a great solution for you. That is going to be exponentially more expensive. If you cannot pay off that bar prep program quickly, you're really signing up for some long-term financial hits. So I want you to really sit down with a budget. And we even have a podcast episode on this that we'll link to with the founder of You Need a Budget about how you budget for times like this, because no one really wants to talk about how much this stuff costs. It's an expensive space, and you need to be thoughtful about how much money you're throwing at this. And most people aren't going to have firm jobs that are just writing them checks to pay for bar prep programs.
Right. And even then you might have to pay for it and get paid back, which the firm doesn't really think about,
Yeah.
but you're a student. So, people could take bar loans. There are lots of things. I think that's a great episode, that You Need a Budget one. Actually, I really thought it was very interesting. Then you guys really broke it down. So if budget is a concern for people, I would definitely go listen to that, because I think that is a legitimate concern here.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for watching that one, and come back and check out our next question. And check out Bar Exam Toolbox if you want to reach out or learn more.
Thanks for listening, and be sure to subscribe, like, and leave us a comment if you have any other questions you would like us to answer in future episodes.